In 1978, the average Chinese person earned $156 per year. That is less than 50 cents per day. Most Chinese lived in mud brick houses. They had no electricity, no running water, no cars, no phones. They farmed by hand. They ate rice and vegetables when they could get them. China was one of the poorest countries on earth. Poorer than most of Africa. Poorer than India. Poorer than almost everyone. Fast forward 40 years to 2018. The average Chinese person earns $10,000 per year. That is a 64-fold increase in 4 decades. China is the second largest economy in the world, soon to be the first. China manufactures everything. China has bullet trains that travel 350 kilometers per hour. China has more billionaires than any country except America. Chinese cities have skyscrapers that dwarf anything in Europe. This is the fastest sustained economic growth in human history. No country has ever gone from this poor to this rich this fast. Not Japan. Not South Korea. Not anyone. This is not just an economic story. This is the most important geopolitical shift of the last 100 years. And most people in the West do not understand how it happened. They think China cheated. They think China stole. They think it was all corruption and lies. Some of that is true, but it is not the whole story. The real story is more interesting, and it is more important, because understanding how China built the world's fastest economy in 40 years tells you everything you need to know about how China thinks, how it plans, and what it will do next. So today I am going to explain exactly how China did this, the 4 strategies that took China from mud bricks to BMW, why the West underestimated China for so long, and what this means for the future. Because this is not over. China's rise is still happening, and the world is still not ready. Let me start with where China was in 1978. This is important because most people do not realize how poor China was. In 1978, China's GDP per capita was $156 per year. The United States was at $10,500. That means the average American earned 67 times more than the average Chinese person. China's total GDP was $150 billion. The US GDP was $2.3 trillion. China accounted for less than 2% of global GDP. China was irrelevant economically, but it was not just about money, it was about living standards. In 1978, 80% of Chinese people lived in rural areas. They farmed by hand, no tractors, no mechanization. Most people lived in mud brick houses with dirt floors. There was no electricity in most villages, no running water. People used outhouses. They collected water from wells. Life expectancy was 66 years. Infant mortality was high. Malnutrition was common. This was a pre-industrial society, and it had been this way for centuries. China had been poor for a very long time. The Qing dynasty collapsed in 1911. Then came decades of warlords, civil war and Japanese invasion. From 1949 to 1976, Mao Zedong ruled China, and Mao made China poorer. The Great Leap Forward killed 45 million people. The Cultural Revolution destroyed education and trust. By 1976, when Mao died, China was devastated, economically backward, socially fractured, internationally isolated. This is the China that Deng Xiaoping inherited in 1978, a country of 1 billion people living in poverty, and Deng had to fix it, or the Communist Party would collapse. So what did Deng do? 4 strategies. Strategy 1. Open to the West. For 30 years under Mao, China was closed. No foreign investment, no foreign trade, no contact with the capitalist world. Mao believed in self-reliance and ideological purity, but Deng was pragmatic. Deng did not care about ideology. Deng cared about results. Deng said, it does not matter if a cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice. This meant capitalism or communism does not matter. What matters is whether it makes China rich. So in 1978, Deng opened China to the West. He allowed foreign companies to invest in China. He created special economic zones, areas where foreign businesses could operate with low taxes and fewer regulations. The first was Shenzhen. In 1979, Shenzhen was a fishing village of 30,000 people. Today, Shenzhen has 13 million people. It is China's tech capital. This transformation happened because Deng opened the door. Western companies flooded in. They brought capital. They brought technology. They brought management expertise. And China absorbed it all. But here is the key. China did not just let Western companies do whatever they wanted. China made a deal. You can come to China. You can access our 1 billion consumers. But you must share your technology. You must partner with a Chinese company. You must train Chinese workers. You must transfer knowledge. This was not free trade. This was strategic trade. China opened, but on China's terms. And it worked. Western companies were so eager to access the Chinese market. that they agreed to the terms. They handed over their technology, they trained Chinese engineers, they taught Chinese managers, and within 20 years, Chinese companies had learned everything, and they stopped needing Western partners. We thought we were exploiting cheap Chinese labor. Turns out, China was exploiting our technology transfer. We taught them everything, and now they don't need us anymore. That wasn't trade. That was the greatest heist in economic history, except it was legal and we agreed to it. Strategy 2, export-led growth. China did not just open to foreign investment. China used that investment to build an export machine. Deng's plan was simple. Use cheap Chinese labor to manufacture goods for the West. Export those goods. Earn foreign currency. Use that currency to buy more technology and machinery. Reinvest in more factories. Repeat. This is called export-led growth, and it worked spectacularly. In 1980, China's exports were $18 billion. By 2000, they were $250 billion. By 2020, they were $2.6 trillion. China became the factory of the world. Everything you own, your phone, your clothes, your furniture, your toys, most of it was made in China. But China did not stop at low-end manufacturing. That was just the beginning. China started with textiles and cheap plastic goods, then moved to electronics, then to cars, then to high-speed trains, then to semiconductors and AI. This is called moving up the value chain, and China did it faster than any country in history. How? By copying, by learning, by iterating. Chinese companies would partner with Western firms, learn their technology, then improve on it. Or they would hire Western engineers and have them teach Chinese teams. Or they would buy Western companies and transfer their technology back to China. Or, yes, sometimes they would steal intellectual property. All of these things happened, and the West let it happen, because Western companies were making money. They did not care that they were creating their own competition. They cared about quarterly profits. By the time Western governments realized what was happening, it was too late. China had built industries that could compete globally. Strategy 3, state-directed capitalism. Here is what most people do not understand about China's economy. China is not a free market economy. It is not a communist command economy either. It is something in between, state-directed capitalism. The government does not own everything. Private companies exist. Entrepreneurs can get rich, but the government controls the strategic direction. The government decides which industries to develop. The government provides subsidies, cheap loans, and land. The government protects Chinese companies from foreign competition. And the government ensures that private companies serve national interests. This is industrial policy on steroids. And it works. Take solar panels. 20 years ago, Western companies dominated solar. Then the Chinese government decided solar was a strategic industry. The government gave billions in subsidies to Chinese solar companies. These companies sold solar panels below cost. Western competitors could not compete. They went bankrupt. Now China produces 80% of the world's solar panels. The same pattern happened in electric vehicles, in batteries, in 5G, in drones, in high-speed rail. The Chinese government identifies a strategic industry. It floods that industry with money. Chinese companies scale rapidly. They dominate the global market. Western companies cannot compete. This is not free market capitalism. This is state-directed capitalism. And it beats free markets when the goal is rapid industrialization. Strategy 4, long-term planning. The Chinese Communist Party does not face elections. Xi Jinping does not worry about the next election cycle. The party can plan for 10, 20, 50 years. This is a massive advantage. Western democracies struggle with long-term planning. Governments change every few years. New administrations reverse old policies. It is hard to commit to 30-year infrastructure projects when the government might change in 4 years. China does not have this problem. The Belt and Road Initiative is a 30-year project to build infrastructure across Asia, Africa, and Europe. Made in China 2025 is a plan to dominate 10 high-tech industries by 2025. China 2049 is a plan to become the world's leading power by the 100th anniversary of the People's Republic. These are multi-decade plans, and the party executes them without worrying about elections or public opinion. This gives China strategic coherence. Every policy, every investment, every subsidy fits into a long-term plan. The West does not have this.